Hello, friends. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Christiana Gaudet. I am not the Tarot Police. However, this is going to be a webinar, perhaps a discussion, really is what it's going to be, about tarot ethics and how each of us can figure out what our ethics are or could be or should be. So I say I'm not the tarot police because I can't tell you what your ethics are. That's why this is not a class. And it is interesting. It is interesting that I would say maybe even 5 years ago, 10 years ago on social media, you could see people in tarot groups talking about tarot ethics like it was a monolith. And like if you did something different than someone else, you were outside of your ethics. These days, I'm not even sure we're talking about tarot ethics as much as we should be, which is why we're here. We are live streaming right now on YouTube, both horizontal and vertical, on Twitch, on Facebook, and on Instagram. So wherever you are, let me know what your thoughts are about ethics as we get into this conversation. And it's so nice to see all of you. Of course, a shout out to the members, the moderators over on YouTube. We absolutely appreciate you. Being in the field, Serena, thanks for being a member. We also have to defend our practice in a way we did not in the past. Can you say more about that? Defend our practice from whom or from what more than we had to in the past? Can you expand on that? Disclaimers are part of the ethics. So as soon as you say that, I'm wondering, I want to hear more. I want to hear more. Talk to me. You say disclaimers are essential. Talk to me about that. This is really, this is an important thing. You know, what are in this practice? What are disclaimers? What does that mean? I'd love to hear more. Michelle's Mystic Corner, so nice to see you. Jaeger Squad looks satanic. If you want it to be, sure, whatever you like. Here we go. And over on Insta, I see some folks joining there as well. Please feel free to get your comments on in. Nine Worlds Tarot, thanks for being a member. Ethics are good. Having a standard of behavior according to your core values and a desire for the highest good are excellent to have. Agreed. Agreed. And Barbie, as someone who doesn't read for others, I'll be mostly listening in here. Well, I'm glad you're here because that's going to be part of our conversation. For sure and for real. That's going to be part of our conversation. All right, let's get on over to CardCam. And what do we see here? We see a book that I wrote. This is the second edition of Fortune Stellar. And I brought this out as I was planning this class. I was like, well, I've written a lot about tarot ethics, and most specifically in this book, which was first published in 2010 and updated in 2017. If I do the math, I think we probably need a new update. But check this out. Okay, and this is very specifically for professional tarot readers. But what did I decide here? When I wrote this book, okay, first, structuring your tarot business, sure. Mission statement, vision statement, service fees, venues, blah, blah, blah. Second chapter, your professional code of ethics. And at that point, when I was writing this, I suggested that every professional reader should have a written code of ethics. Now, where did I get that from? I got that from the tarot, the American Tarot Association back in its very beginning. When the American Tarot Association and the Tarot Certification Board were one organization, creating a code of ethics was part of the certification process. Like there was no way around it. If you wanted certification, you had to have this conversation. You had to create that code of ethics. So let's Talk about it. Oh, being in the field. See, there you go. I am not alone here. I have a written code of ethics specifically built from the association. Got it. Yeah, I see it. So, what are tarot ethics? Now, if we think about this from a professional perspective, I think, tarot ethics will encompass how you work professionally. But here's a question. If you read for other people, but only casually, do you still need tarot ethics? I'm going to say yes. What if you only use the cards to read for yourself? What are the ethical considerations of reading for yourself? Are there ethics involved there too? I would say 100% yes. 100%. So, yeah, Serena, being in the field says everyone needs tarot ethics, even if you're reading just for yourself. Yeah, this is what I'm thinking too. Now, okay, what are tarot ethics? I'm going to say, and I'm happy to hear from you. Like, I started out, I'm not the tarot police, right? I feel like, right, Barbie, I may have them and not even know it yet. Exactly. I feel like, and, let's go back to what Kristen Louise was saying, Nine Worlds Tarot. She, without being asked to, she says that it's having a standard of behavior according to your core values and desire for the highest good and desire for the highest good. That's like you have, Kristen Louise, you have just given a great definition of ethics. That when you are working with the cards, you're going to have a standard of behavior with your cards according to your core virtues and your desire for the highest good. So, I think for some people, tarot ethics can include not riffle shuffling their cards like I do. Like, there are some people who really cringe when I do this, right? So in terms of your personal relationship with the cards, I feel like that's part of your ethics too. And, here's one that I didn't even think about or mention in my planning. And so you're not going to see it on the screen. But here's a huge one that I actually could use your help in handling. The ethics of tarot piracy. So even if you just read for yourself, you have to make an ethical decision about whether or not you will buy pirated decks. And that's kind of huge because, like, if you go to a market, chances are most of the vendors have pirated decks because they're right. Allie Mammon, how you treat your cards is also ethics. I would think so. But here's a question I didn't even think we were going to talk about. But I end up in tarot gatherings where people pull out their cards and I can see they're using pirated cards. Do I say something? Do I not say something? What do I do? I've gone to markets and have pretty much talked to every single dealer there and say, look, these are pirated decks. And some of the people that I said that to were like, so, and just didn't care. And I was like, okay, you're a horrible person. There it is. I'm sorry, but my ethics tell me that you're a horrible person in that situation. Other people, though, honestly didn't know. When they bought their cheap decks from Temu, they thought that's just what it was, and they didn't know. Right, Allie Mammon, how do you know when they are pirated decks? I think, right, Barbie Bird, right. How do we know if they're pirated? Exactly. Being in the Field says purchasing direct from the author or publisher is a good way to go. But even stores carry pirated decks. It happens. I think do the research. How did I know that the Lightseers was pirated? Because there is no legitimate version of Lightseers that comes in a tuck box. So if you have a little tuck box of Lightseers, pirated. So before you buy a deck, look at what it's supposed to look like and make your comparisons. And the other thing is, if the price is too good to be true, that's probably why. Ness, I was lucky with my first deck that it was not pirated. It was absolutely lucky, right? Oh, here's a good one. Pam, what about reading for kids? Should a parent be present? At what age would you read for young adults? I read at block parties. Okay, friends, tag it kids. We know it's reading for kids. Tag it kids. Tag it kids. And I will tell you my thing about reading for kids. If I was doing a block party and doing free readings and kids came up to me, yeah, no, not without your parents. And honestly, that's a financial thing because my tip jar is going to be there. And I'm pretty sure that your 7-year-old self is not going to tip me. If I'm hired at a company picnic, and so I'm just paid to be there, I'm going to assume if your kids come to my table on their own that they're going to have a reading with me. And that's what I'm going to do, whether or not the parents are there. Because parents, I'm here. I'm paid to be here. It's your job to supervise your kids. If you don't want your kids near me, get them away from me. That's not my job. When it comes to private clients, as soon as you can have your own credit card or drive yourself to my office, I'll do your reading. And so, 16-year-olds. So there it is, right? But you may have something different. Like there are some people who will just never read for anyone under the age of 18. And I think that's fine. And I think that's a good thing to think about that I didn't think about. Like we've already brought up a couple of issues that I did not even think about for this conversation. Right, Barbie Bird, your Lightseers is not a tuck box. Right. Kids haven't even thought about it. Youngest I've ever read for was 18. And what I'll say, and I'll have parents bring their kids to my table like they're 5-year-olds. And I can guarantee you when you're doing that, you're talking to the parent, not the kid. You're going to entertain the kid, but you're sharing things about the kid with the parent. Trey, I've read from my niece before. I find it can be hard to connect. And I think the key there is the context of the cards are going to change, right? Like the tower for a grown-up is going to be different than the tower for a kid. It still feels the same, but it's going to be a different set of circumstances. When I read the Chariot for an 8-year-old, it's not going to be the same as a Chariot for the 30-year-old. The 30-year-old might be getting a new car. The 8-year-old likes to go fast and maybe is sort of a leader in their group. So I think it's a matter of looking at the age and reading the cards in the context. Would you like a whole class on reading for kids? Let me know. I'll do it if you want. Oh, Allie Mammon, that is coming up. Spying on others in a reading. Third party. We are going to talk about that for sure. For sure. Ness, I would be conscious of what I say to a young kid. Absolutely. But I do the readings. And yeah, I mean, do you want to treat kids with extra special care? I mean, I hope we're treating everyone we read for with extra special care. But kids, it's a different skill set in a lot of ways because it really is a contextual skill set. Right. Okay, so we would love a class on reading for kids. Can do. I do a lot of proms. Okay, so we've talked about what are tarot ethics. Why are tarot ethics important? Being of the fields, you are talking about something that I think is significant that might answer this question. Let's see. Hang on one second here. Being of the fields, disclaimers. For you, disclaimers are very much part of ethics. And I think, I'm just going to paraphrase what I think you're saying. But let me know if I'm making sense or not, and if this is what you're saying. I feel like the disclaimers are a couple of things. Number one, I am not all seeing, all knowing, and I don't know what you had for breakfast, and I don't know when you're going to die. And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. So like, I think we have to set some expectations. And so I think sometimes disclaimers are about setting expectations because sometimes the expectations have been set for us and we need to change that. I also feel like, oh, got it. Okay. I also feel like on a legal level, now, in the US, anyone can sue anyone for anything, and it really doesn't matter what disclaimers you have legally. But I do feel like it is good to have some sense of like, I can show you that I do my best to do the right thing, right? Right, Trey, I always say I'm not God. If I were God, I'd charge more. There you go. Okay. And here's the thing, the class on tarot with kids and possible decks you feel are good to work with. I'm just going to say this and then I'm going to get off kids because I could talk for a whole hour about it. And apparently I will be doing so perhaps in July or August. I don't love the idea of switching up decks for kids. If my deck is available for public consumption, then it's good enough for a kid. And I know there are a lot of decks like, oh, this is a good deck for kids. This is a good deck for kids. I don't personally love that, I like to use the deck that I'm using. I'm not going to like put one deck away and pick out another deck for younger people, but you might. And that's fine, whatever works for you. Oh, Bean of the Fields, on my website, I talk about personal ethics. And at the bottom of the homepage, I have the legalese. Yep. Rebecca, I think I would love reading for kids in a quite different way. I think it's so good for children's imagination, yes, to interact in that way. I know I would do no harm, but would want the parents' permission. Sure. And Beat of the Fields, I like tarot for kids for myself. And Ness says, I have Teresa Reed's Kids Tarot deck. Yep. It's sweet, but my boy doesn't like it. It doesn't have cool nights. Oh, this is a good one, Allie Mammon. Leading the querent or seeker during the Path A or Path B spreads. They have to make the decision. You cannot. That is so smart. Michelle's Mystic Corner, so good to see you. Thanks for being a member. I feel like our tarot ethics should be how we conduct our business, treat our clients, and behave in a manner that would blend with you and spirit. Okay, now, that's good. Thank you. Craft felt tarot for kids. I love it. Yep. And maybe that, like, I would just say if that, like, that's a good deck for everybody. Read for everybody with that. It's perfect. And I'm so sorry you're having a migraine. Sending you so much healing. So might your code of ethics change over time? I would have said no. Ethics is ethics, man. That's what I would have said. But after 30 years, I'm going to tell you my code of ethics has changed substantially over time because I learned more. And I learned skills to handle things that I didn't handle before because I didn't ethically know how to. I've learned some skills. So my ethics have changed as my skills have changed, and my ethics have changed as I've learned about some different cultures. And what seemed like something not good in my own culture, when I learned about it in others, I understand it better. All right. Does every tarotist need a code of ethics? Well, need is a funny word. I mean, if you're not professional, I don't know that you need one, but I think it's a good idea. I think that since we all kind of agree, I mean, on one hand, tarot is a game. Tarot is 78 pieces of cardboard, but I think we also believe there is something sacred here. And as such, I think we'll get better results, even in our own self-reading, if we treat it as something sacred. Yeah, if Kristen Louise, dead on. If you're going to be a good and reliable one, yes, every tarotist needs a code of ethics. Absolutely. Oh, Ness, here we go. This is a really good one. I read for friends that know each other. I would never share what they asked or what I told them. And I actually covered that in my chapter on ethics. I actually covered, okay, third-party readings, that got mentioned, right? Magical cures and spiritual services. That's one where my opinions have changed. I used to think magic for hire was always bad. Now I think there are ways it can be done ethically, not necessarily by me, but by people who are trained in their own culture to do it. Hey, Carolina, nice to see you. Third-party readings, we already saw that one. Fees, how we handle money, charity work. But somewhere in here, predicting the future, that's one we really have to talk about. Customer satisfaction. What do you do if you are a professional? What do you do if someone is not satisfied? That's one. And the one Ness is mentioning, here it is, confidentiality. And you'll find whether you are professional or casual, you will end up reading for people who know each other. And yeah, Claire C., privacy is paramount. Abso-freaking-lutely yes. Yes, I agree. Okay, so if you're not a professional reader, what are the ethical considerations? We're going to say, like, we start with your deck, you know, making sure that your deck is ethically sourced, ideally, and how you deal with your cards, how you treat your cards, and how you let your cards treat you. For example, if you are a person and you just read for yourself, your entire relationship with tarot is, I read for myself. I do a daily tarot meditation, or I do weekly cards for myself, or I go to the cards when I have a quandary. I would say one ethical consideration might be if you're going to the cards when you're anxious, and let's face it, we all do, you are not going to make decisions based on your anxiety-based readings. That might be one. Oh, Trey, that's interesting. Would you consider Reiki to be a form of magic for sale? I would not. But what an interesting question you bring up there, because even when I was like, no magic for hire, I was all about the Reiki. Oh, interesting. When we talk about future predictions, Kristen Louise, I will only read predictively for entertainment. And I assume that goes along with the disclaimers. You know, like going back to Being of the Field, Serena, her sense of disclaimer, I think is, you know, really interesting and important, because that's part of the disclaimer. If I make a prediction, a disclaimer should go with it. You know, because if I'm predicting that you're going to get some money that you weren't expecting, don't spend it till you get it, man. Or if I'm predicting that you're going to meet the love of your life soon, I'm also going to have to say, hey, you might meet other people soon too. You're going to have to decide which one is which. Right? Right? Right, Mediha Ness, the cards don't lie, but I might, right? The cards don't lie, but we can get it wrong. And I think when you're reading for yourself, that's really important too, because what if you're reading to try to get out of a funk and your misinterpretation of the cards based on fear or desire is actually getting you more into your funk? I think you have an ethical commitment to yourself and to your tarot practice to recognize that and go get some ice cream. Allie Mammon, got it. Good. Okay. Very good. Go ahead and get whatever thoughts or comments you have in wherever you're watching. Barbie, yes, I like to think of predicting outcomes more along the lines of possible or potential. Our interpretations can be so biased, yes. Kristen Louise, I think predicting the future has the potential to take away the person's potential agency from them. You have just said a mouthful. And likewise, if you're reading for yourself, like imagine I'm reading for myself and I'm in a funk and I'm like, okay, look, I'm never going to have money. I'm never going to get a good job. I might as well just give it all up now. That is not being ethical with yourself, and it's not an ethical use of the cards. You see what I'm saying, right? All right. And so, yes, when we talk about future prediction, Barbie, yeah, this is it. We cannot take away the fact that free will exists. Exactly. And so that's why when we make a future prediction, we have to be really clear that it is, as Kristen Louise says, either entertaining, and I'll say, well, like just for S and Gs, let's see what might happen. And it's fun. And we're doing it for fun. Right? Hey, Oscar, you found us on Meetup. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, Bean of the Fields, thank you for this. I love the conversation about personal energy and getting the cards wrong. These are, personal agency and getting the cards wrong. These are key, really tender, true, and important. Thank you. I agree. I totally agree. And I've told a lot of you this story, but it bears repeating. When I was very early in my practice, I was reading for somebody. And I saw she was really happy at her job and people loved her and she could be at her job forever. And I didn't think to qualify that. I should have. She calls me up a few weeks later and said, you couldn't have been more wrong. I got fired. I said, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, you told me I was so well loved. I just didn't go to work for 2 weeks. But that was kind of on me because I should have said, it looks like as long as you keep doing what you're doing, everything will proceed appropriately, So all of that. Okay, Claire C., what if a client speaks about abuse that you should report to authorities? I had to always report as a teacher. We are not technically mandated reporters, but it's an interesting thing. Because we are often the first line of defense. We are the first people. And I'm going to say, I don't know that we have an ethical responsibility to report to authorities, and maybe the opposite. Maybe we don't. But what we do have is an ethical responsibility to get them in front of the right people. So whether it's suggesting therapy, referring to a therapist, referring to social services, referring to those people. And I think that when we're reading for others, either casually or professionally, referring to the right people is really important. Right, Oscar, right. I have to clarify that this is entertainment. And when I'm doing psychiatry, that's medical. Got it. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Rebecca, numbers for suicide hotlines and other crisis numbers. Absolutely. Numbers for the domestic violence shelter. Numbers for the food bank. I mean, you never know. Bean of the Fields, let's see. You agree with me, Bean of the Fields. I suggest they get support and find their way to reporting. I'm not the reporter. Yeah, agreed. Trey, have you ever read for someone you suspected had perhaps unalived someone? Not that I can remember. I mean, I've read for people in the military who most definitely have. But if we're talking about, commission of murder, no, not in my memory, not that's stuck in my memory banks. One of the weirdest ones I ever had was the guy who had come to Florida to detox from his heroin addiction, but he wasn't going to a detox, even though we have so many of them here. He was just going to hang out on the beach and not do drugs. But he planned it so he was starting to go into his detox while he was sitting with me. That was a hard one to know what to do. That was really hard. And I, to this day, don't know if I did the right thing, but what I did was he had a friend with him and I sort of gave him to his friend and sent him on his way. But I don't know. Oh, Oscar, I'm Israeli. There's a lot of detox centers here too. Yeah. Right, Oscar, you're a psychiatrist who does medication management. There are more psychiatrist tarot readers than you would imagine. And of course, plenty of therapist tarot readers as well. Okay. So, good stuff. Let's move on. Okay, this is like, I was like, okay, what are the usual suspects, right? And we have come up with more than that. But here are some to think about. Oh, and now that Jen has gotten it, I just got it. Oscar de la Yenta. Right, got it. I didn't get it until Jen got it and pointed it out. So well done, Jen, and well done, Oscar. Very good. Okay, health readings. So interesting. We're not doctors. I mean, except for Oscar. Oscar is a doctor. But I would also think that in a tarot reading, you're not going to practice medicine, I would guess. Oh, that's so funny. Nine Worlds Tarot. I was just Googling Yenta when you said that. That is so interesting. Oh my gosh. All right. So health readings. If you are uncomfortable doing health readings, like I am perfectly okay just saying, yeah, you don't need to do them. But the thing is, we all live in bodies and our bodies have issues. So like as a full service reader, I feel like I have to comment on the physical body if that's appropriate. And Being of the Fields, I love this subject as I'm wandering into reading for the elderly. So what is so interesting, and I can do this better now that I have more gray hair. Like I've always read for older people, younger people, like at any age I've read for people of any age. But I'm getting more older people now. And some of that's being down here in Florida, which is God's waiting room. But some of it, I think, is I've earned the badge. The wrinkles and gray hair have made me more approachable. And we have very frank conversations about death, which I did not know how to do 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But, we have these conversations. Okay, so regarding the medical stuff, Being of the Fields, who's a medical intuitive? I'm not. So I don't use the cards to assess physical ailments, but I can read in a way that is discussive and supportive. Right. So I think there's a couple of situations. One is just the general, they're healthy, but they wonder how their health is. And I will always say, and here's the disclaimer. You're absolutely right, Being of the Fields, disclaimers. I use them every day and I hadn't really thought of it, but I do. Your best source of health information is your doctor. But I'll see what I see. And here's the thing. I've had better luck with this than you can imagine. And I've shared this story too, but it's worth another tell. I'm working a party and someone throws that question out at me. How's my health? And I do what I do. I'm not a doctor, but I'll tell you what I see. What came up was the Two of Pentacles, and immediately I thought of breast. Sorry, but I did. Two of Pentacles, there it is. And that's what came into my head right away. I said, have you had a mammogram recently? And she said, no. I said, do me a favor. It's probably nothing, but it won't hurt, right? It won't hurt. Just go get a mammogram. So she calls me 2 weeks later and thanks me for saving her life, because she had like stage 0 breast cancer that was just detected in the mammogram that she went because I told her to go. So now, transversely, I read for my own mother while she had cancer in her body. And I was able to say, I see a health event coming, but not anything more. And I felt guilty about that for a long time. If I could see it for a stranger, why couldn't I see it for my mother? And okay, this is internal tarot ethics as well. I had to come to the understanding that if I'm to see it, I see it. If I'm not to see it, I don't see it. Right, Trey. Some things we aren't supposed to know. Agreed. So, yeah, you could argue it relates to life contracts. I agree. I absolutely agree. So, health readings. Yeah, being in the fields, I agree. Reading for family is much tougher. Health readings, it's an issue. Like, don't go in doing it if you aren't clear on what your ethics are and you aren't clear on what your voice is going to be and you aren't clear on how to handle it. Likewise, if you think, and this is going to come up in dire predictions. Hey, Norma, good to see you. Thanks for being here. This is going to come up in dire predictions as well. Making dire health predictions. And it's also true now, third party, it comes up in third party as well. Where like, my dad is sick, how's my dad? And I think if we don't want to, like, here's the thing. If you don't want to do the health reading, but you do want to address the question to say, I can't say what his prognosis is or might be, but I can say what he's experiencing and I can say how you'll be able to support him. And, same thing with how's my health. If you don't want to do that, you can say, well, I can't do a health reading, but let's pull some cards on your relationship to your body and how well you're taking care of yourself. So there's lots of ways you can take a question that doesn't fit into your ethical framework and turn it into one that does. So they're still getting their question answered just differently. Does that make sense? And does anyone else do that? Okay, magic for hire. Excuse me. Oh, being in the fields, brilliant. This is what I do. It's good. My clients love it. Yeah, agreed. So here's why magic for hire was my issue. It's because of all the neon sign psychics who will draw people in with readings for $5, $10, $20 and will say, I see a dark curse over you. Unless we do something, bad things are going to happen to you. And I had never seen magic for hire done ethically. And so in my mind, all magic for hire was coming from those shady scammers and therefore should not be done. Now, later on, I met people who came up in traditions that do workings for each other, conjure people. And they have fair rates, their rates don't change, and they don't scare people. The conjure man doesn't come to you and say, oh, you need this. You go to the conjure man when you think you need someone or something. And I think that's the difference. Right, Katie, my inbox is flooded with magic for hire on TikTok. And so being in the fields, I think it's not that magic is not a commodity or is not. I think it's about scaring people into it. I get the clients after they've been fleeced. I had a client who had lost her son to drugs. And the reader kept calling her and saying, your son is going to do drugs in heaven. You have to pay me more. And we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. And I had to convince this client, like, no, that's not a thing. That is not a thing. Now, exactly, Ness, in my tradition, it's standard to do periodic cleansing from bad energy. And I would assume if I didn't want to do it myself, I could hire someone to do it, and that would be a fair exchange. Right? Right, Katie, and sometimes it's the opposite, and you can hear that. Good blessings are coming for you. I feel that good things are coming for you, but you know there's going to be a hook. If you want those good things, you have to give me money, jewelry, whatever, right? Well, Trey, the thing is, it's not sociopathic for them. For them, they're doing their tradition. Sometimes you just need a Rolex to send a demon back to hell. And so they're raised to do this. And it's, I don't know. I mean, it feels sociopathic to us, but I think for them, it just feels normal. But for me, and that's where, I will not do magic for hire. If someone really needs something, I'll make them a candle and give it to them for free. But I haven't figured out a way to do magic for hire, and I don't. But maybe you do something different. Right, Nine Worlds Tarot, you had a good experience with this. Hubby hired a friend to do a spell and finally got a story published. And it was published. I wouldn't hire just anyone, right? And this is it. Knowing culture is really a key part of our experience. We need to know each other better. And that was my problem. I was like, absolutely no magic for hire, because I only saw one culture doing it, and they were doing it in a way that ripped people off. And so, yeah, absolutely. Right? Nine Worlds Tarot, my spells suck. I would never charge for something I suck at. Well, and I love that for ethics. If you're not good at it, don't charge for it. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, dire predictions. And this is where, Mitchell Osborne and I think a lot of you know Mitchell. Mitchell Osborne and I have some great conversations about this, because he and I have we love each other, but he and I have different ethics about this. If you're in a reading and you see something, you haven't been asked, you just see something, you're doing a general reading and you see something really dire, do you say it or do you not? Mitchell believes that if it's on the table and I can see it, I must say it, and I must find a way to say it that is supportive and appropriate, but still gives the message. My feeling is, if I can't find a way to say it where I don't think it's going to do harm, or where I don't think it won't do harm, I'm not going to say it. End of story. I don't care if it's on the table. So maybe in that way, it goes back to it's a skill issue. I think Kristen Louise is on it. If you suck at it, don't do it. So if I can't deliver this message in a way that isn't going to suck, for me, I'm okay with not saying it and just trying to point people in the right direction. If I clearly tell you to go see your doctor, go see your MFing doctor. But I'm not going to say what I see. You see what I'm saying? Claire says, yes, say it. Bean of the Field says, I believe there's an in-between. Hey, Empath, Zenpath, sure, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. Rebecca, that's helpful to know. Good. Bean of the Fields, I'm a bit more on your vibe here, right? And so, again, there is no right and wrong. And I can give you a great example of this. During the time when I was with the ATA, where there was we didn't really have internet. We had email. We didn't have social media or anything like that. So we're sharing things back and forth via email. And I found another professional reader whose statement of ethics was the exact opposite of mine in one point. His statement was, I will never do more than 3 readings a day, because that is the extent of my energy. My statement of ethics was, if I can possibly get you in as quickly as you want to get in, I'll stretch to do it, because my energy works differently. I can do 12 readings in a day, and the 12th is going to be as good as the first. I know that's how I work. And so we had exactly opposite statements in that one regard, and we were both correct for ourselves. Okay, so Katie, you practice indigenous shamanism. That's your Native American tradition. If someone's coming to me in bad need of cleansing, I don't know how to turn because they need help. Trey, you know about that. I was there for all of that. I was a key player in all of that. And yes, that was before. Yes, that was before. I could tell you some stories. Hey, nice to see you over on Twitch. BMF, good to see you. We're talking about tarot ethics. Ness, some readers won't do same day readings on love questions. They don't want to encourage anxious behavior. Right. And I'm like, well, let's get that on the table right now. If you're jumping out of your skin, let me help. Because when you leave, you're going to feel better. Because I'm not just going to do, are we going to get back together? We're going to unpack this. And we're going to talk about why you're all up about this. Oh, you do the Elder Runes as well. So I am learning the runes, and I'm learning it right here on June 25th. Eric Arcadian is teaching me, and he'll be back. He's coming on once a month, so you can see that too. We do that. Oh, you don't feel ethical charging for it. And maybe you don't charge for that. Maybe that's a service you just do. I think you can charge for it if you charge a fair amount, or you can even say, I don't charge you, but if you would like to tip me or give me a present, you may. Not required. Right? Right? All right. So, Claire C., there was a whole deal. My coming into the tarot community was trial by fire, and there was a big fire, and a lot got burned to the ground quickly. Yeah. Not having anything to do with my behavior, but I was called in to try to help clean up the mess. Yeah. Oh, Rebecca, you're so happy for the runes content. Well, that makes me happy because I'm happy to provide it. Oh my gosh. Empath Zenpath, you are a powerhouse, always have been. Putnam, Connecticut. Who the heck are you? Oh my gosh, you knew me back in the very beginning when I was much skinnier and much less gray. Oh my gosh, thank you for being here. And thank you for your kind words. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, so dire predictions. Who's living in Putnam? I started my business there. And Empath Zenpath knows me from there, which is really cool. Batty Street, yes. I lived on Batty Street. We called it Catty Street because there were so many stray cats one year. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate that. Okay. So dire predictions, if you're going to read for other people, you have to have a sense of how you're going to deal with that. And you may not even be a predictive reader at all. Like Kristen Louise, like I only do predictions for fun. I am a predictive reader, but it has big disclaimers. Thank you, Serena, for that disclaimer word. I used to live in New Haven as well. I've lived in so many places, being of the fields. I lived in Connecticut for a very long time. Hartford, many places in New Haven. Putnam, where I started my business. New London. Ansonia. Yeah, lots of places. Anyway. So when you're reading for others, you have to know how you're going to handle the prediction piece and if you're going to handle it. If you're not a predictive reader, you can talk about how to prepare for the future rather than what's going to happen in the future, or how to create the future that you want. Now, third-party readings, tarot spying. There are some people who are like, absolutely not, absolutely not. If they're not here, if they didn't ask to be read, we're not doing it. Ask for yourself in connection with the other person. Don't ask about this person. And Nine Worlds Tarot, Kristen Louise, absolutely, don't do third party. I spend most of my time doing third party readings, I swear to gosh. And here's my thinking on it. Not in a gossipy way. Not in a gossipy way. And as soon as it comes to gossip, I come down to why do we need to know that? Why is this important to you? Can we discuss why this is important to you? But if I'm reading for a mom who needs to know how to best help their kids, we're going to look at those kids. If you're on a dating app and you want to know if you should go for coffee with Bob, Tom, Bill, Dave, or Henry, I'm doing those readings. And if you have an issue with your boss and want to know how to handle your boss, I'm doing those readings too. So my ethical considerations around third party are primarily, is it helpful or is it hurtful? And sometimes those third party questions are really about themselves. For example, the person who had been divorced for more than a year and her ex-husband was remarried, she wanted to know what the sex life of her ex-husband and the new partner was like. I was like, we're not going to do that. But I'm curious as to why you want to know, and did that reading. And there was a whole thing there that involved trauma from the marriage, and that was what we needed to deal with. So very often those third-party questions are your clue for what you really need to do, because there's something there that you have to deal with, right? Oh, Nine Worlds Tarot, maybe once I become better at managing those situations, I'll start doing them. And that's it. And I think that's a really good point when we talk about, do our ethics change? As we get better at something, then we might take it on. I think that's really fair. Oh, Socratic questioning. Yeah, there it is. That's what we're doing. Next, third party can be useful and fun. I think it depends on the question. Like the worst question I had was, when is my boyfriend's sick wife going to die? That's just disgusting. I mean, it depends on the energy with which it's said, I think. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot to manage and there's a lot at the table. And so we're going to have to deal with it the best way we know how in the moment. And the bottom line here is you always get to say no. But here's the thing. When you're reading for yourself, are you okay spying on people? Like I do, how's this person? How's that person? I mean, whatever. And when you're reading for yourself with dire predictions, do not make dire predictions for yourself. Do not scare yourself with the cards, Barbie Bird, or anybody else. Hey, Karita, good to see you. All right. Here's the one, and this came up earlier. Someone mentioned this earlier. Trey, people are wild. Some stuff just shouldn't be spoken aloud. And the thing is, like the tarot table is a safe space to say the things that you can't say any other place. And we have to be able to sort of figure out where our boundaries are and what we will absorb and what we will deal with. I quit being a Dionne Warwick psychic friend back in the 90s when the question I got was, this goes back to your question too, Trey. The question I got was, should I use a gun or a knife? And I was like, back away, man. You're, no. Right. Safe space to say the things you can't say in any other place, right? Right. We can ask helpful questions or damaging questions, right? Katie, most of my questions when I'm reading for myself are about other people, like the children in my life, the people who need my support. Absolutely. Barbie Bird, this is really important. When I don't like what I read for myself, I call it quits. Just go get some ice cream. Put the cards down, back away, go get some ice cream, come back later. Seriously. Now, over on Twitch, this is a good question. My dad is Christian who feels tarot is against his beliefs. He doesn't shun me for it, but he doesn't want me doing readings for him. Yeah, I get that. Oh, Barbie Bird, you're quoting Taylor. Shake it off. I love that. So the quandary. Should you read for someone whose ethics beliefs are different from yours? And I do. And like, if you're a Christian and willing to come to my table, and my guess is most people at my table are Christians, I will read from that perspective. I can give you Bible verses. We can talk about that. Right, you have to respect people's beliefs. Likewise, if you're pagan, I can read from that perspective. But I used to have a really hard time reading for racists and homophobes. That was hard. I would look at people and be like, don't even be like that. And I came at it from a place of moral superiority, which was inappropriate. I was younger and less wise. Right, as long as their beliefs aren't bigoted, right? But they are. And so I used to give people a really hard time for being racist at my table. I decided I can't imagine why, round about 2016, I started having a different perspective. And it worked. And here's the story. The woman who came in, she was very, very upset. Her story was her son had been abducted by a gay man and was holding him hostage, essentially. And I was like, okay, let's look at what's really going on. The truth was her son was in a happy, healthy relationship with a gay man because guess what? Her son was a gay man too. And the conversation, when we got there, the conversation was, well, then I can't be with him. I can't talk to him. She was ready to disown him. And I'm like, but you want to see him in a happy relationship, right? And it looks like this guy is really doing a good job taking care of him and he's really happy. Do you see that? And she's like, yeah. I was like, well, why wouldn't you want a relationship with your son and why wouldn't you want your son to be happy? And this was all guided by the cards. And she ended with, I guess I'll call my son next week and see if I can take him to lunch. So yeah. And that's it. Could you come to it from a point of view to form connection or understanding with intention to find middle ground, right? Right? Exactly. And I mean, it's harder with racists. It's harder with racists because, why is it harder with racists? I don't know. It's all hard. It's all hard. But from my perspective, I can read for you. Even you can be when we do the runes, we always do the disclaimer about how we're not folkish. But I get folkish people in my office. I read for them. So it's hard. It's really hard. And I don't think there is a right or a wrong way here. You have to do what's comfortable for you. The thing I wanted to do in this discussion was to get you thinking about this. Whether you're reading for yourself, reading for others casually, or reading professionally, or planning to read professionally, these are things we must think about. And there's not a lot of right or wrong there. I haven't once said it's wrong to do this or it's right to do that, because I can't tell you what's right or wrong for you. I do think confidentiality overall is probably one we could all agree on, though. I mean, just as a basis. And I also think the idea that we are here to help, not hurt, is a basis. So I think there are some basic things we can agree on here. Oh, I love this. Being of the Fields. I suggest we all write our code of ethics on all levels. It's a great practice. Yep. And, the thing is, when you read for people, it might be at a party and it might be very entertaining. It might be at someone's wedding where, it's just happy and we're having fun. But it might be a person who is at the very lowest place in their life. I have read for people going through horrors that you could not even imagine. And we have to be able to hold space for that in some way. And we have to hold space and grace for ourselves as we're doing that. And so we have to have these conversations with ourselves and with spirit. Oh, one important thing I almost forgot is the idea, and this is in my book, Fortune Stellar, that if you're not sure what your ethics should or could be in a particular situation, or as you're writing your code of ethics, actually have tarot exercises in here to use tarot to write your code of ethics. So get thee to Amazon and buy my book. You could do that too. Or, just do that. Use tarot. What should I know about my tarot ethics? They're always changing. They are serious, and I must think about them. It's not, and when I have them, I adhere to them. Use your cards to help you understand who you are as a reader and what you want your ethics to be. Use your cards. Barbie Bird, I pulled cards for my ethics earlier and I got the King of Swords. Yeah, that is very, very freaking fitting. That's beautiful. So, my friends, I want to thank you. Katie, I'm not an IT person. There's only so much I can do. I'm sorry. Talk to the IT people. My IT person's like, this is more accessible than it used to be. That's all I can tell you now that I'm multi-streaming, but we're doing our best. Being in the fields, holding space, interpreting, dialoguing in good faith of whole truth, support, and guidance. Have good ears. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, accessibility is kind of huge. Katie's point is really good. Accessibility is huge. We're working to make it better online. I moved my office from up a flight of stairs to wheelchair accessible. So yeah, I think that's key too. I think accessibility is key. Thank you for that, Katie. Absolutely. So Jen, I think you were the person, like this class came out of this group. I think it was Ness, Jen, a couple of other people during a global tarot circle asked that we do this. And that's how a lot of these classes come from. It comes from you. So I appreciate you and your good ideas. Oh, this is so huge, Barbie Bird. Not reading and playing into people's body language. I find that manipulative. Agreed. Had palm readers do me wrong that way. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. My friends, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. And whatever you think we should be covering in July, let me know. Members, we're recording the Tarot Scopes early next week. I think it's Tuesday. So if you're a member, check that out. And of course, on the 25th, Eric Arcadian will be joining me for our runes class. And oh, Katie, you offer Zoom and phone and all those things. It's not like I can't access you. I'm just whining because I can't access your books next week, I think. Yeah, that's an issue. It's a good point. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. My friends, I appreciate all of you. Thanks to the members, thanks to the moderators, thanks to everyone for being here. This was really a group discussion, so thanks to everyone for participating and lending your ideas and energies. I've learned so much from you. I hope you've learned a little from me. I will look forward to seeing you really soon. Of course, I have appointments available if you want a very ethical tarot reading. Reach out. Thank you all so much. Take care.